Every now and then we get a glimpse of what this offense could be when it's hitting on all cylinders, or what this defense was when you go back to the Green Bay or the Las Vegas Raiders game, or even when you finish some of these games later in the season, but you never get to see it for 60 minutes. We feel like we haven't seen it consistently. So if they can be that, I believe in them, but we haven't seen it all year.
Okay, Neek, how about with the Saints? Low, medium, or high?
I'm high with the Saints. Every year it seems like they are in the mix in the playoffs, and they bounce back from some serious issues. And this defense is a problem. They're playing as well as anybody in the league right now. I know that we don't all have a ton of faith in Drew Brees, but with Sean Payton and the talent they have, they'll find a way to score, and Alvin Kamara is the man.
Graz, what about the Ravens?
I have high confidence in the Ravens as a potential problem for other playoff opponents. I think they're playing with a high level of confidence themselves right now. The quarterback has looked very much like his old self ever since that bout with quote-unquote cramps in that Monday night game against the Browns a short time ago. The run game and the offensive line look like they've found something. They get healthy on the back end of the defense. I think the Ravens could sneak up on some people this year.
All right, it could be really interesting if they do. I want to bring you guys in. And, guys, I just want to mention this. They're obviously on a 4-game winning streak. And just so people understand, because we talk about the teams they played recently, that winning streak includes the Cowboys, the Browns, the Jaguars, and the Giants. RC, is what we're seeing out of Lamar, is this really a return to form, or is this a guy who's beaten up on bad teams?
You know, I think Lamar is playing better, right? Lamar is getting to a point to where I believe he understands the experiment, or wherever he was trying to move with his game wasn't him, the pocket passer, or the guy that wanted to utilize his mind more than allowing his athleticism to get him outside the pocket and give him those options that he's the best at in the NFL. And I think he's moved back to what made him the MVP a year ago. I just don't think this team is as good. This team is more urban legend than it is actual substance, right? We've watched them beat up on some bad teams late on in the season. They've obviously played a really good game offensively against the Cleveland Browns, but we're still living on last year. We're living on what we thought the Baltimore Ravens could be coming into this season. And so now we talk about this team as being a scary playoff team based on what we believe they could be, but not necessarily seeing it all the time. And so for me, I think this team will be scary. I think when you prepare for somebody as unique as Lamar Jackson, it's a headache, but I still don't believe they are where they were last year entering the playoffs.
Yeah, and I want to ask you that question, Nick. And by the way, I don't mean to say the Browns are a bad team. I don't want people beating up on me. But, Nick, is this a better team, do you think, right now than that team we saw last year coming into the playoffs, if they make it?
Hell no. Not even close. I mean, that team last year was 14-2 and taking the league by storm. But that doesn't mean they can't win a game in the playoffs. I don't see them going to the Super Bowl or even the AFC Championship game. But I think everything that everyone said is right. I don't think anyone's lining up to play the Ravens. No one's looking forward to going after that blitz package. But I do think that one of the problems is they've been beating up on these bad teams. But one of the problems is, Graz mentioned it, is that defense is built on their secondary being able to cover, and it allows them to do all types of tricky things up front. And their secondary has been on and off healthy this season. If those guys can't be healthy, this team can't win. The end of that Cleveland game, they were playing coverages that I don't think I ever see them play, just because they couldn't trust the guys that they had out there in man coverage. They couldn't blitz the way they wanted to blitz. So I think this team is certainly not one to be kind of disrespected, but let's cool it, Smith. They're not close to that 14-2 team last year that was setting records.
No, it's not even close.
Yeah, but one thing I think about, Graz, when I look at this team, and I know we talk about Lamar, and I think he takes an unfair amount of the blame, but I think what we're seeing in him in these last 4 games is a guy who's really in many ways returning to form. Does that bode well for him going into the playoffs? And I always say, if they make it.
Yeah, I absolutely. Again, you're dealing with a team that definitely last year was 14-2. They believe themselves to be potentially great, right? They've been great. They know what it feels like. A month ago, they had reason to doubt themselves. But even though it's been against bad teams, you start playing the way they're playing. These guys, I'm sure, can talk this. If you start putting together wins like this and dominating people, that can only help that confidence. And if you believe you have that greatness inside of you, as the Ravens do, yeah, I think that does make you dangerous, even if you're not going in as the 1 seed this time around.
RC, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's tough. You know, I mean, you come out last year, you drop Get Rich or Die Trying, and you feel really good about yourself, and then you come give us The Massacre. It's just not the same. It's a good album, and it sells, but it doesn't win. And so I think that's where the Baltimore Ravens are right now. They're a team who remembers what they used to be, but they do not have the roster and the team that's played that way this year. And so going into these playoffs, you still go in limping, and you go in not as confident as you were last season.
All right, Fiddy appreciates that. All right, guys, thanks so much.
That was the problem. Not as much.
Yeah, well, coming up, we got Rex Ryan. And think of
our job is winning. We intend to do our job. We intend to prepare with that mindset and ultimately let our play lead us to that destination. We're not seeking comfort. And so the guys that will be on the field will represent us, and the standard that is the Pittsburgh Steelers will be the standard.
So the standard's going to be there. The quarterback's going to be very, very different. And Des, we haven't had you on this topic yet. Resting Big Ben, is that the right call considering how this offense has struggled recently?
Right, and I think it is simply because Ben has shown his age some, and you want to give a guy some time to rest, to heal, so maybe you can get the best Ben Roethlisberger of 2020 in the second part of the season, which is the playoffs. So I understand he hasn't looked really sharp. I mean, they struggled early, but then they came on strong in the second half Sunday and looked really good. But yeah, at Ben's age, you want to give this guy the best opportunity to play at a peak level in the playoffs. So I completely understand. When I was at Green Bay and we went on our Super Bowl run, Mike Holmgren did similar tactic. We had home field advantage. So the first game, a guy like Edgar Bennett, who was our running back, he let Edgar Bennett rest, and Dorsey Levens took over. A guy like Antonio Freeman, who was a great wideout. A guy like Terry Mickens played more. So I understand when these coaches, not only do they want to rest their starters, but you also want to give some backups some valuable experience, some valuable playing time too. So I completely understand the process, the thought process that went into this decision.
Yeah, and Big Ben, he's been banged up over time. You would hate to see him get banged up in this game if he was playing. So, Neek, I want to turn it to you, and let's turn it to the Browns, because they're impacted by this decision. They're playing the Steelers, pretty much must win for them. But here's the thing. We've talked about whether or not they're failures if they don't make it to the playoffs or disappointments. What does it say about them if they lose this game, to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it says that they aren't ready. They aren't quite there yet. They're getting closer, and it's hard to say that this season is a disappointment considering how bad they've been for so long, and to get to 10 wins is a heck of an accomplishment. But if they lose in back-to-back weeks to teams that, frankly, are not well-equipped to beat them, it's going to be a problem. But I don't think this game is going to be easy because I know that the standard is the standard in Pittsburgh, and they're going to show up. And I know Mason Rudolph wasn't that good last year. I don't expect him to be much better, but he has weapons. He got more weapons than Michael Jackson got zippers on his leather jacket on the cover of Bad. So as long as he can get the ball out to his players, as long as he can get the ball out to those zippers, they might be able to open up an opportunity for that team to win.
See, I knew I was just waiting for that to come in. All right, RC, here's the thing that a lot of people are going to say about this move who think that Big Ben should play. They're going to say he was in a rhythm in the second half. He's got to keep that rhythm going. So talk about that for us. As a player, as somebody who played this game, how important is that coming into the playoffs?